Welcome back to Midweek Politics. I'm David Pakman. I'd like to bring in Seth Weinberger, professor of politics and government at the University of Puget Sound in Washington State. Hey, Seth, thanks for calling in.
How you doing?
Good. So your new book is called Restoring the Balance, War Powers in an Age of Terror. And I'd like to talk about, really, there's a lot of things I want to talk about with you. The first of which is, last week I said on the air that I don't understand, and I'm no United Nations scholar, so the reason that maybe user error why I don't understand, but I don't understand why and how Ahmadinejad is allowed to threaten the existence of Israel, another UN member nation, and simply be allowed to stay in the UN with what I see as very limited restrictions or punishment in any way. Where am I going wrong with what's clearly a really simple argument?
Well, I guess it would. I mean, if you're going wrong anywhere, I guess it might be in the area that maybe you're misunderstanding the purpose of the United Nations. As I understand it, the purpose of the United Nations is to privilege what we would call the sovereignty of the states, right? The sovereign equality of states. The fact that all states, by virtue of having essentially political authority over a particular territory, right, essentially enjoy the same rights and statuses on the international stage as all others, right, regardless of what happens inside that state. So we don't discriminate between good and bad states. We don't discriminate between capitalist and authoritarian regimes. So regimes are able to do, essentially, the governments, whatever they want to inside of their territories.
But when we're talking about Ahmadinejad threatening the existence of Israel, that's no longer within their territory, is it?
Correct, right? But I mean, even in the UN, for example, right? After Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990, and then was eventually thrown out by the United Nations, right? Iraq never lost its status in the United Nations. When North Korea, well, I guess that they weren't members of the UN in 1950, but right. So even when states invade each other, right? The purpose of the UN, right, is to give states a place where they can come and talk regardless of these sorts of differences. And so, I mean, I guess maybe it would be one thing if Iran actually started carrying out these things. But when you're only at the level of rhetoric, no matter how I think inflammatory or problematic that rhetoric is, I think the interest is in keeping Iran in the system. And for example, I mean, if you want to have any kind of leverage over Iran's nuclear program, right? If Iran is out of the UN, you lose any of that leverage, right? And then you're left with literally the only thing you could do to stop Iran would be to attack it.
Well, right? It's an interesting point. And Seth, if you have us on speakerphone or anything, it would be we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Off. I'm having a hard time hearing you as well. It's just maybe not the best connection.
Okay, we'll do what we can. So the media coverage of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and his latest trip, to me, it has been appalling. And I hear media outlets saying things like he politely answered questions on all topics. He didn't yell or scream and was quite civilized. And to me, I hear myself almost sounding like a neoconservative, but how are these stories being published with no mention of the fact that he questions the Holocaust? He wants Israel wiped off the map. He says there's no homosexuals in Iran. I mean, this is an unbelievably bizarre, crazy guy with a strange idea of what's acceptable to say on the international stage. And the media coverage is almost silly to not mention those things. I mean, what's your reaction of what was in the press?
I certainly think back to, when was it, last year or 2 years ago when Ahmadinejad came to, or was invited to speak, I think it was at Columbia University, right? And there was a big sort of outrage. And I mean, I think there's a couple of things behind this, right? One is sort of this general reticence to sort of criticize political leaders, and especially those who come from different political systems or different sort of cultural aspects, right?
By the media.
Sort of problematic to say what those people do over there is silly, even when those things start to verge into what I think we could objectively say are silly, right? Claims that there are no homosexuals in Iran, or dangerous, right? Claims about incinerating another state. But
sure.
I mean, I think it really comes from sort of this. I mean, I don't know if I would say ultimately this sort of cultural relativism, but right, this sense that that first of all, he is a political leader, right? He's a statesman, regardless of whether or not we like him. He's a statesman. He represents his country, and so I think there's automatically sort of a certain amount of deference due at that level. But then also, I think just sort of this general sense. Obviously, I think there's a degree in which there's a hypersensitivity to criticizing Islam.
But I feel like we're getting a little bit into the weeds only because is he If there's question about how democratically elected that person is, I don't even know that it's safe to assume that they are really a representative of the people of the country. And I'm confused. Are we talking about you see this reticence among the media or among politicians in the U.S.?
Again, the media, right? So if the media's criteria for to whom they were going to listen, right, was being whether or not you were democratically elected, right?
Sure.
Then all of a sudden, you're not allowed to talk to a huge amount of the leaders around the world.
Sure.
Right. So obviously, the media is not going to make it. They're not going to discriminate who they're going to listen to and whom they're going to cover based on that question, right? And you also have to remember, right, the incentive of the media. So you remember there was a scandal, I think, after the invasion of Iraq, right, where CNN admitted that it had sort of sugar-coated its coverage of what was going on inside Iraq in order to maintain coverage, right, in order to keep access to inside the country. Do you happen to remember that?
Yeah.
So there's a little of that too, right? The media. I mean, on the one hand, of course, they want to report the news, but they also are thinking about, right, if they upset him, they're not going to be able to maintain their access. So I just think there's a lot of dynamics, and essentially the media, my guess, and I don't study the media, so I mean, a lot of this is sort of just from my understanding of international politics, right? But I think a lot of this comes from the media sort of this general deference for a lot of various reasons that the media will pay to the head of a state or the political leader of a country.